Okay.
We'll do our best. Is that good? Okay. I'd like to call our Finance Committee meeting to order. Bobby, did you say go ahead? Yeah. You're still working on the live feed? Okay. I asked Joel to come here today. We're going to first discuss, thank you, Bobby, the salary ordinance amendment that needs to be done for Joe Copeland, and just try to get some clarification on how we can move forward with that at this week's meeting. And then we'll move into the resolution of the raises and any conflicts that came from that. Ed T., you said we need an amended salary ordinance. Is that as much as you know? And then did you also need us to sign something beside that at this week's meeting?
Well, I'm not 100% sure what we need.
Right.
I just would like to move forward. If we do need something, as far as the salary ordinance goes, it's an amendment, I guess, to the salary ordinance, and we normally write that up. And since this one may be a little more complicated than the normal amendment to the salary ordinance, we would need an attorney to do that. I think normally it doesn't, and of course, does the auditor do that? I don't know.
It'll come from Joe. The amended salary ordinance will come from Joe, but I don't think we can do an amended salary ordinance until we have an approved contract. Right, Joel?
Yeah, I mean, if you do one, it'll have to be subject to getting the contract finalized.
So we have what?
The interlocal with Randolph County finalized.
He said we could go ahead and pass it, but it would be subject to the finalization of that contract.
If I'm allowed a quick question, what we were trying to get is for Joe to be allowed to start work November 1st between the two counties. Now, could we do that with a memorandum of understanding between the two counties and then work out the details later?
Yeah, I mean, you probably could. I mean,
Joel, sorry, that was kind of loud. Do you feel like it is risky to go ahead and do what we're doing? I mean, I want to make the timing work because I think it would be good if he could start in November, but I'm sitting here a little concerned, wondering if we know what we're voting for or not. I don't know.
The agreement that we have, I mean, it isn't too far from being done.
Okay.
There's additional information that needed to be obtained, but it sounds like if Randolph County's officials are out, you probably won't have that done. I mean, I think the big concern would be obviously to tie down the reimbursement and those types of things. So, I mean, you probably could do a truncated version of this agreement and have it be subject to approval by all
Okay.
bodies.
I think I'm okay with that. And, okay, so we could pass a salary ordinance that's provisional upon,
Subject upon getting the agreement that covers.
okay, so I guess we're not too far out on a limb there.
Joe, is it possible that the communication take place in the next 2 days, and this could be addressed this Wednesday and Thursday at our respective meetings, once the communication is better between the two counties?
Well, when I look at the agreement, I mean, basically it calls for what's needed to be obtained. There's a spot in here that's like, and I can tell you what the blanks are. It talks about information about vehicle insurance, cell phone, software, and other items in paragraph 13. And then there's a reference at the back on notes being tied on time, expenses, time to work language, notes from email, notes from Joe email. And so I guess I need to see that information to tell you what exactly it is on that back page. The paragraph 13 is what it talks about costs for vehicle, cell phone, that's within the county is going to advance, and then Randolph County is going to reimburse. I think that information might be able to be obtained. I'm just not certain what the reference is to the stuff about costs, expenses, and time to work language. I don't know what the negotiations have been with respect to those items.
So would 2 additional days to pin those 2 issues down be beneficial?
Conceivably,
I mean, we could address this Thursday and Wednesday respectively.
I think
I'm not
so.
sure if both bodies have to or not.
So Kenan is saying maybe some of these missing pieces of information we could get prior to Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe.
The salary and most of the big items are pretty much settled and agreed upon.
Yeah. What we need for the salary ordinance, we already know. It's,
yeah, because I mean, basically for salary ordinance, you would need the number, because the way this is drafted, Randolph County will reimburse Henry County for half of it. So basically what all we would need for salary ordinance would be what the annual salary is going to be.
right. It's not even going to mention the reimbursement.
Same amount for each county, and then they're going to about 25,000 each, plus the 40,000 that is reimbursed by the state. So there's not really much problem with the actual salary.
And the salary ordinance won't mention the reimbursement. It just mentions the dollar amount.
So
Okay.
Joel, I have a question. So is the council also going to need to approve this interlocal?
Yes.
Okay. Because that's a little outside the norm of
Yeah,
the interlocal agreement.
They're statute allows either the council or you can send these to the Indiana Attorney General to approve, but I always do it to the council and involve expenditure.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be a big deal, whether it starts, our next meeting, the commission is the 17th of November. I don't know if that's an obstacle. We had talked previously, try to get it to start on November 1st. If that's a big problem, surely we could work things out by November 17th. And that may not be a problem for Randolph County.
Is Randolph County also hoping he starts November 1st? Was Randolph County also hoping he would start November 1st? That was the date you guys had,
I don't know.
you're not sure, okay. Okay,
That's what I mean. If It doesn't matter to them.
Okay,
We would have another 2-3 weeks.
okay. Do you want Joel to work with you guys this week to try to fill in some of this information, or is that still?
I don't know if we can do that yet.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Our meeting is on the 18th, so it's back to yours in November.
are you thinking about us signing the interlocal?
It sounds like contingent upon what you said earlier, we could approve it based on that contingency. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not certain whether we need to notice that says needs to tie down the cost and expenses and time to work language. Maybe I can reach out to Joe to find out what that's referencing. I assume time to work language is, within a minimum amount of time he can spend in the county, or how he's going to allocate his time between counties.
Okay, so I think we can go ahead and have Joe do the salary ordinance with any help he needs from Debbie or Ann or Joel, and we can vote on it this Thursday. What do you guys think about just talking about the salary ordinance right now?
Right, I think some of these things that are question marks right now could be answered. It sounds like Commissioner Dellinger is the one that's been the main person communicating with Randolph County, that a lot of those questions can be answered, maybe not from the person that's in Iceland, if he or she still is in Iceland. But a lot of those questions that just came up in the last 15 minutes can be answered between now and Thursday, and we would feel more comfortable agreeing to something that these pending issues are pinned down. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I concur with Ken, and I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had some more defined answers.
Say that again, sorry.
I'd feel much more comfortable if we at least, I can't tell you today, right now, that I would be comfortable voting on it Thursday without having some of these other answers, especially knowing that we now have to vote on this interlocal agreement. My guess is the majority of our colleagues have never laid eyes on it.
I have not seen it.
And so, I saw a initial rough draft when it was originally brought to the Job Classification Committee, but it was kind of tabled very quickly because it was a wholly different process. So I don't know how many of our colleagues will be prepared to vote on a complete contract that they've never laid eyes on until today, which was the draft copy that Debbie just sent out today. Our counsel attorney, I don't know how much time Joel's really had to spend. I don't know when he received the contract.
He found it a few days ago.
So, I don't think there's any problem or there's anything wrong, but I think we need to give everybody the proper time and have the right answers.
So even with the salary ordinance, you still want to wait? Kennan?
Are we still referencing the Joe Copeland ordinance or the overall salary ordinance?
So I was just trying to separate. I don't want to vote on the interlocal agreement till I've read it.
True.
Do we also, because if we voted on the salary ordinance, it's pending approval of the interlocal, which we get to vote on. So to me, it's possible we could do the salary ordinance because it doesn't mean anything if we don't pass the interlocal, or we can wait on both. I was just thinking through the process.
I wasn't aware we were going to take this up until I got this morning. Maybe I didn't read the agenda.
It was last minute last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Chad. We received this morning around 9 or whenever, not had a chance because it's over 20 pages, I think. And it's legalese, so I'd like to digest it.
Well, we wouldn't vote on anything today. I'm talking about what would be the right thing to do Thursday.
Keep in mind, we could also make the salary ordinance retroactive if need be. So that's not a problem too. I personally just think we should do them both at the same time.
You think we should do them both together and we should wait till they're completed?
Yeah. I just don't like the idea of voting on something we don't know. I'd rather.
Yeah, this question in one answer. We could probably pretty quickly.
And I will we'll try, Ed, but again, like I said, the majority of us just received this like an hour ago. And it's 20-plus pages long, and it's full of legalese, so it's not something that's a quick 5-minute read. And we also have not gotten feedback until just the very little that our counsel attorney has given us in the past few minutes. So, you know, really, we're going to take his advice and trust on a lot of this stuff, because you get into these weeds with the legalese in there. And
I'm good with that. I just would like anything to take a few days to look at it, write down questions. And like I said, if we have to wait until 17 November, 18 November, we're probably okay with that. But we need to know what, some of the questions you have, we can probably answer right now.
Okay.
If we get the questions written down, we can surely work it out. And if we have to wait until 17, 18 November, I think we can live with that.
I couldn't hear you, Debbie. What did you say? Okay. It is a salary ordinance, yeah. It wasn't our original intent, but yeah. So I can do that. I can read it before Thursday and write down my questions, and we can see how the council feels broadly. Okay.
Certainly give everybody comments.
Okay.
If I have anything in addition to what
Okay.
we talked about, that should take, if you want to get something out today.
Okay.
So Debbie, did you send this out to all council? Okay.
All
So
right.
they've all received it.
Okay.
You know, you might
I can send a text and direct people
text
to it.
Please read it, and
Yeah.
if you have questions, contact your lawyer and get back with us.
I think we could put this salary ordinance on the agenda, then send it to all the council and ask them to try
I
to
think so.
review this and come with questions.
Right. But we wouldn't vote on the interlocal till it was done,
No.
because that doesn't make sense. But
No.
we could potentially do the salary ordinance. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the salary ordinances we had originally met to deal with, and I'm going to let someone else lead this, maybe Kenan or Debbie, because I know there were a lot of questions.
I'll simply do it real quick as I can background. We three, which I believe is called the Finance Subcommittee, have been talking probably for a year and a half about the big discrepancies once we get our annual report from Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. And I've mentioned this at several meetings where we have people running from close to their market analysis, and I think they look at statewide counties, and close to market analysis, a handful, to over 30% below. That how can we address that? And I came up with a tentative spreadsheet the very last day of hearings in 2020, which I found out this year was riddled with errors because no one in Henry County was asked to update Wagner, Irwin, Shealy through salary ordinances and names. When I handed the sheet to the Sheriff's Department that was assigned to Jay Davis, and he came back and said 3/4 of the jailers' names were no longer current jailers because of their extreme high turnover. And about 1/3 of the Sheriff's Department were inaccurate names because of the high turnover. So we calculated it was over 6 years at least since Henry County, no fault of any employee, no one was asked to or instructed to update them. The salary projected market analysis is accurate because they use the same formula as they do that they provide every county. But none of our salary ordinances, job categories that were changed, were sent to Wagner, Irwin, Shealy. So we put out, correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, my recollection, but I updated it, put up a new spreadsheet from the ones from 2020, and sent them to every department head saying, please respond with corrections. And there were a lot of corrections. Names, not as many as the sheriff or jail, and salaries that had been changed through salary ordinances. And so we updated about 30 of those, just from feedback from department heads. Well, there's 30 in the sheriff and jail, but 30 across the rest of the departments. So we corrected the spreadsheet, which, as Debbie pointed out in an email, was grossly inaccurate, which it was because it had not been updated in 6 or 7 years, to what I think was about as accurate as humanly possible. And in that interim, Ann and I talked. She gave me spreadsheets, and I compared them with what the department had said. So by the time we went into budget hearings, we had a pretty accurate spreadsheet, I think. And then we discussed it, and there were different iterations as discussions took place in our 5 budget hearings. And then the last day, I think Chair Hoon asked me what would it cost given the last category, scenario 3, and we decided that it could be supported with our budget as we had thrashed out during those 5 previous days. And then I think that last night, Chad and Aaron recalculated some insurance projections, and we were even able to boost the sheriff deputies even more than what my last spreadsheet the night before had revealed. And we were given ACLU said you have to do whatever possible, the commissioners and the council, to make your jail legal jail because it's severely overcrowded. And currently you are violating the agreement you signed the year previous because you are grossly understaffed in your jail. And it included in that communication from Ken Falk from ACLU that includes approving competitive salaries in your correctional officers, which we attempted to do this year. And that was under a federal mandate from our Southern District Court judge in Indianapolis, where we met about a year ago. And we're told in no uncertain terms you had, because if you're unconstitutional, you will be directed to do this, this, and this. And we avoided that.
Thank you, Ken. So what's the best way for us to start talking about this 2022 wage inconsistencies? This is what needs to be resolved. E- You want us to go through the wage increases or the wage inconsistencies? The wage increases? Okay. 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 So, go ahead.
So I want to start by asking a question of Joel, because I think this is the linchpin of all of this. Since we choose to pay by class, we're required that all people in the same class have the same wages, or the same increase, or neither, or both. Is so every common group should be paid, I think right now, $30,529. Yes. So if we let's say the common group in Joe's office versus the common group in Bill's office, if they would both get the same raise, if they both got $1,000, and they get paid $31,500. So it would have to be equal size. If they have to count 4, they get paid. Sorry, I forgot to hit the button. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So I think the problem is we're doing it for two different sides. Because Kenan took the sheet from Wagner saying the similar position in another county, which whether or not they have the exact same class, who knows? Whether they pay like class, who knows? And then now we pay like class, so that, I think that's where this discrepancy comes into play. How about for the, obviously elected official does it twice, but every elected official does not make the same dollar figure, so that's not a problem?
No, I mean, you're allowed to set wages for
And
elected.
I'm assuming the ESOs, I just think that's what it is, special, that I'm assuming that is the same for that class, if there's a special occupation.
Yeah.
So we don't have, so we would not necessarily have to give everybody in that SO class the same rate. We don't have to give the auditor, the assessor, the treasurer, the recorder, the surveyor, all the same rate, because they're set aside. We could look at those differently.
Yes.
Okay.
So what are the classes? Because I'm not very familiar with it. Comment 3, 4, which,
Several, there's polls, there's comments,
okay.
that's the majority of them, right? LTCs, yes.
Can you
Can I
guys make a
interject
list for
something?
me? I'm going to write them down.
Can I
Comment 3,
interject
4.
something first?
Sure.
The day after our last hearing, I wrote the following to all council members and Debbie. There's an extreme right-hand column with some notes to council under column P. Those who had recent salary ordinances or raises are noted as I put them down as having a slightly less raise than their counterparts, typically less than $500. If it's decided to run this past the commissioners and/or job classification, that is up to those with higher pay grades. Very recent hires have similar notation. That was in 5 of my updates. I don't think those were ever addressed because I am not a student of our personnel manual. But I don't think it's ever really truly been addressed. And I brought that up several times during the budget hearings. And maybe that's what we can thresh out today. Because there were notations in that last column that I brought to everybody's attention that needed to be addressed. And at that last meeting, it was not addressed. And to my knowledge, it's only been addressed with conversations between Ann, Kay, and Debbie.
Can
And
you
I'm
read
not
it?
necessarily privy to those conversations.
Can you read it again, Kenan? Read the note again, please.
There's an extreme right-hand column with some notes to council under column P, which was provided to all council members after that last meeting. And it had been provided about every 5th update on the spreadsheet that I had shared with everybody. Those who had recent salary ordinances or raises are noted as I put them down as having slightly less raise than their counterparts, typically 500 or less. If it's decided to run this past the commissioners because of the personnel manual or job classification, that is up to those with higher pay grades than myself. Very recent hires have a similar notation. I'm just saying that I don't think it's ever been addressed, except maybe in smaller circles since then. It never was addressed publicly at the budget hearings, other than I said that there are notes to the right-hand side.
So is the implication that that might have contributed more of a disparity between our
I guarantee it
different
did.
job categories?
I guarantee it did.
Okay.
I just wanted to note that I did note that at the time. And
No
maybe
one's,
that's what we're here to hash
no
out
one's
today.
blaming you. It's just hard for us to
No,
understand.
and
It's so
This
complicated.
is not a CYA statement. It's just that
Right.
I don't think it's ever been addressed.
Right. Okay, so we have comment 3, comment 4. What are the ones we're going to try to resolve today?
I don't know that I necessarily am asking you to resolve anything.
Okay.
I'm just asking you to look at numbers. I think Ann went to Kenan or somebody and she found the discrepancies.
Okay.
And I think she is, I'm just wanting someone to clarify what
2 different goals. Okay.
is correct on my sheet.
Okay.
And if you guys want to, Ann did bring you that, and I'll let Ann do that. But what I'm asking for is clarification as to, is what is on this sheet, is what I have correct on my sheet.
Okay. Well, Chad and Kenan, should we do each thing separately?
So I'm looking
right
at
way to do
Ann's
it.
sheet here that's labeled the 2022 wage consistencies by
Right.
job category. And what she did was take everyone in every class with getting the exact same raise, but does it address they get the same salary as well?
There are some limitations.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but this is when Joe Wiley came to the job classification and said he had the monies to give everyone a $3 an hour raise. And we all, as a council, probably didn't research that well, because after Kim Crunk came back from being gone during that meeting, he sat me down and said, "What have you done?" And I said, "Well, I think our rookies didn't research things as well." He said, "You are going to cause a major turmoil in county government." I said, "We're neophytes. Tell me what we did wrong so we don't make that mistake again." And I think we're here today so we don't make that mistake again as well. And we gave them a $3 an hour raise. Their turnover has been cut in probably 80% since then. But we did not address the LTC thing at that time, as you mentioned, Ann. We only looked at the highway department. And I think we've learned a little bit since then, hopefully, from our mistake. It wasn't a mistake to give them the raise. It was a mistake not to look at the overall picture. And they really did not have the money as we thought, because we didn't research it enough. Tell me if I'm wrong, Chad.
No, you're right. I mean, we went through this, most of us, and we took Joe at his word that he had it on us, and we found out quickly it didn't necessarily happen. And so, yeah, then that caused a major ripple effect overall. I guess when it comes to that salary ordinance, we need to discuss and decide, is that the proper class? I mean, if there is a difference, is there a difference between the class of a assistant maintenance and a highway truck driver?
Well, the CDC is one requirement.
Yeah,
is
so
to
I mean,
have to be
should
a
it-
licensed CDC. They're the
So,
only ones.
but what I'm saying is, should the assistant maintenance tech be a LTC 2? Or a different, is it properly, because we've had to address that with someone sitting right in front of us, the wrong class situation. And so we need to make sure, before we just adjust accordingly, I think we need to go through the process and make sure that they're classed properly.
Yeah, the LTCs in the highway department were all truck drivers with CDC, or CDLs. CDLs. And that was the category that rightfully was, we did research and was true, had almost as high a turnover as what the sheriff's department, about 1/3 in the 5 previous years. And so his staff went down from 36 when he first came on to 22. And those were mostly truck drivers because we were nowhere close to being competitive. So again, okay. We were told at the time, perhaps erroneously, that the ones getting the raises were CDLs. If that was incorrect, we were told inaccurate information. Okay, and the heavy equipment are LTC 4s, not LTC 3s. Yes. The only LTC 3s in the highway department are the truck drivers, which have CDL licenses, and light equipment, which they have none currently. So the comparison would be between the CDL truck drivers and the maintenance people in the courthouse.
I don't think anybody was talking about. We have to do our due diligence and check to see if we are classing properly.
Good. Well, the other thing I would assume, and tell me if I'm being erroneous in this assumption, that they did receive, and I don't even know if they're the same people who were around in 2019, but if that position did receive the $1,000 that the previous council gave back in January of 2019, and I would assume they also got the $500 stipend we gave everybody this January. Correct or incorrect? So they've not been stationary as far as, it's not been. Right, okay. Gotcha, thanks.
Chad? Okay, so I'm just catching up over here. So you're saying we would have to move this assistant maintenance tech up to the 39,445, or consider whether or not he or she should be moved down to an LTC 2. But then we would be reducing his salary, like Ann said, unless we moved up all the LTC 2s. 32,266. Well, yeah, the new salary, right, is 32,266, yeah.
according to my spreadsheet, and according to what I think we got from Debbie, did get a $1,000 increase. No, this year, for the, proposed for 2022, there was a $1,000 increase, plus a $1,000 increase in 2019, plus a $500 increase in January 2021.
So I have a process question. The cook here that you highlighted, did you change his $1,000 raise to $943 to make it fit the position? Okay. Okay, all right. Thank you, guys. I understand now. Thank you. I did that. I know what you're saying. You want us to own this. I get you. Oh. So what does it say on yours? 1,000? Okay.
So just like the assistant maintenance technician on Ann's sheet says 400, on Kennan's sheet and Debbie's sheet says 750.
Yeah, and Ann and I met a couple times during the summer as these 20 drafts were changed, given our conversations and budgetary. And she did point out that the cook was a higher, in this case, it's higher pay than the other LTC2s, right? And she pointed it out, and I did not address that on the spreadsheet unless it was in that note on the far right-hand column. So in this case, the raise is more, puts this person higher than the other LTC2s, where the others are lower that you're addressing. I've got a question for Chad, being in job classification, and I'm backing up to the cook. I hope I can impose just a second to put a pause button on. That is approximately $67 more. Do we have it within our ability today or Thursday to just say that that should be equal to the other LTC2s? Like ground maintenance, or no, Chad?
And what you'll have to do is make that adjustment, and then we will have to make an amended salary ordinance in 2022. We can't change it now because we've already sent it to the state. We can, but we start the process all over again. But if we start this now, then in 2022, in January, we can do an amended salary ordinance.
That's the same thing we got to do for Joe Copeland.
Yes.
It's the exact same process, so
Okay.
we can.
Well, I think that was the intent. She brought that to my attention, and with the other 300 lines on this spreadsheet, I didn't remember that when it came to budgeteering times. That was a discrepancy. Even though it's only a $67 discrepancy, I think that's one that could be remedied in the future, according to Debbie and Chad.
I mean, whatever we decide, we already turned in, so we're going to have to.
It's going to have to be amended. Okay.
And on this spreadsheet, I did mention at the last, or a couple of the public hearings that we had on the budget, this is probably a 3-year process. If we have the revenues next year, hopefully we can get closer to market. If the following year, hopefully we can get even closer to market. We have some positions that are real close to market now. A lot of them fall in the highway department because of our lack of research 2.5 years ago. But most of ours is like 5 out of the 7 counties that are in our population range, or 6 out of 7, or 7 out of 7. We are on the lower end, even after these raises. But these raises will make us more competitive with comparable sized counties with comparable assessed valuations.
So, Ann, I have a question. Where you have adjust for position, it was a small modification that you're suggesting. But the ones in yellow, you're just saying we need to decide something with it because it would be a bigger deal. Is that right? Okay.
I think, Susan, with what occurred, with a group effort, a team effort, we are so much closer to Wagner Irwin Shealy's data being accurate
Yeah.
by many folds than what it was. And that's not blaming Wagner Irwin Shealy. That's just no one here was instructed, told, asked to update that. And so they had very out-of-date information. The market analysis was right. The names were really wrong in some departments. And I'm repeating myself.
Actually, yeah, it's not that bad, actually. Yeah. I finally gone through the whole thing now, and yeah, it's not a lot. Right. Where are we heading to? Yes.
I'm not sure why the EDC coordinator and the superintendent wouldn't be the same, because they don't necessarily fall under page number 4 of your sheet, the wage consistency.
Is this a special occupation? Okay, thank you. Do you know how that occurred?
I do not.
Or why?
I do, but I cannot be factual with it, but I can tell you the timeframe. This occurred when the former superintendent was noted as a exempt employee. It was to be changed. There was some emails, I haven't covered all of them, but some notices that this, because of it being a superintendent, it should have been an exempt position. But when the reins got loose, I'm not sure as to whom or why, but in that time frame prior to the changing of the superintendent, it actually was non-exempt. And when they did that, they put it back in as a tax.
Okay, could you, being a former educator, educate me on exempt again? I know you have, but I...
Exempt is no overtime. You were not bound by the FFL for any overtime. You are straight salary employee. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule, but that's basically what that means. If you're not exempt, then you are entitled then to any overtime, commenced overtime, which would be your department superintendent.
if you adjust, just a minor adjustment.
What's less than the 67? And you're saying they all three technically, given our,
salary ordinance for that
should be the same?
should be the same, correct? Now, if I'm missing something, there was nothing in the file, there was nothing we discussed. It's just that this particular position is paid just a little bit over. And I went back and it's been that way for some time, but I can't answer you as to who, what, when, where, why.
And the park superintendent, according to job description, is a PAT 3, but salary has been based on a PAT 2.
So that should be fixed. Yeah. This is just helping us find errors, basically.
So would it be fair, the recommendation be that we're working towards making those three the same over the next year? Is that the best we can do without going back and changing?
I think we change it in January. Yeah.
So how do we correct that today?
We can't today, but we
Thursday.
on, Thursday.
So we amend the salary ordinance Thursday. So will that come to the job classification?
We'd have to make that effective immediately because that's what we've done in the past.
No.
And going forward.
So do we make it all three the same as the highest, minus $24?
Now, what about this deputy director where you have the note that it's partially grant funded? Is it okay then because that it's a little higher because it's grant funded, or do they all need to come up to that?
And when we met with her in late July,
Okay.
she said, I don't have the monies in my grant
Right.
to do the salaries that are on the spreadsheet we gave her as to what we said would bring them closer to market. She said, it's not in my grant. I can't, blood out of a turnip. I can't do it
Okay.
because it's a grant. It's not through your general fund.
And usually in those grants, they tell them what the salaries can be.
Right.
They give them a flat amount, as this is,
Yeah.
because there's been times they came to us and said, hey, we have this money in our grant to give a raise, and they've allowed that.
Yeah.
But usually those grants always spell out what the salaries are going to be.
Joni said in our sit-down that Susan and I had, says this is set by the state. Usually there's a slight salary increase every year, but it's by grant. And I can't, in the grant that was just submitted, I can't confer these raises that you're projecting that you'd like to give, that you're giving to the county. It's not in our budget.
So it looks like. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the funding is solely through the grant, I don't think so. Yeah, it's subject only to whatever grant funding is.
Yes, theirs is solely, they're totally funded by grant.
Okay. Well, it looks like fixing the superintendent's salary is what needs to be done. Is that what we're saying?
What, at EDC minus $24? Chad, you can do that in your head. 1314 minus 24, 1290?
Using this sheet that Ann has, if we bring everybody up in the same class, with the exception of these 6 that we talked about, and every class got paid the same rate in a raise, which would also give them the same rate of wage, it's an increase of $42,711. Okay? If we increase everybody in the class issues that we have, which are the 6, including the assistant maintenance, if we were, which he is the bulk of it, it's an additional $10,717.
Okay, back up here. Where's the first 44,000?
The 42,000
42.
is making everyone have the same, because the issue we had initially was certain Thomas got certain raises, so then it would cause an issue, or certain polls, or certain people got raises across the board that were different than, that were caused this class issue to grow. Because you may have one got a $1,250 raise, someone with the exact same class got a $1,500 raise, but they have the exact same class.
So those are things Ann's already changed here.
Yes, those are the ones.
Okay, because I don't see that here, but now when I go back to Debbie's, I do.
Got the green tab on top,
Right,
that's the one that was set by
Okay.
Randy from the council,
okay.
and those are the ones that we're gonna find some disparity in. And if you get this one. There you go.
So the question is, how much of Kinnon's hard work do we lose? Smoothing out these salaries.
Well, I don't think we lose any hard work. I think we're trying to get more things where they should be.
Right.
Now, I will tell you, I'm not in agreement with that $42,000 number, because I think we need to go look at the elected official salaries, and give every elected official the exact same rate. And I don't think that's, I'm not taking $1,500 increase.
Well, I had to sit down with Ann, and I said the commissioners may be elected officials, but they and every commissioner and the council are considered part-time. In every county in the state of Indiana, we're not on a 30-hour expectation or a 35 or a 40. So that's why our raise was, what, 600 instead of the 1,500? I think the one discrepancy is with the surveyor, myself, because every elected official that's full-time got a $1,500 raise except the surveyor. And that was based on discussion in open public meeting, that he was not licensed. That should have been attended to 6 years ago when he was first in office, not decided by us 6 years after the fact. I think what was read at was the law that surveyors be licensed surveyors was mentioned in our budget hearings. Based on that discussion, there was a $1,000 raise instead of a $1,500 raise. I think the discussion should be, is that proper legal to give an exception based on something. I don't know if it's, but it should have been addressed when first,
I mean, that's consistent with what I understand. You're a licensed surveyor, you get additional compensation for location protection orders. The statutory, there's nothing really that requires a surveyor to be a licensed surveyor, or necessarily provides that you have to pay them a higher salary if they are a licensed surveyor.
okay, so that was really not a pertinent discussion to have when we're talking about salaries this summer.
Statutory, there's nothing that requires you to consider that.
Okay, I only bring it up because it's at a public meeting, and this is a public meeting, and we're talking about discrepancies in salary raises. That's one that I have an issue with, me personally as one council member, that difference was made because of that topic that you say is not really a valid argument for a less raise. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's good. Mine didn't, and that was one of those notes. That was why I didn't.
Oh, now I'm really confused, because we're talking about hand sheets. I didn't go by hand sheet, I went by your sheet.
And I'm saying,
What raise should I have given these people, hand sheet or yours? Because I was only handed yours at the budget hearing. So that, you're telling me that every salary, then most of these salaries I put in are wrong?
no, I'm not.
Okay, because
I'm saying that one.
Andy and I are very confused as to what we were supposed to do now.
I'm bringing out, just like we did in the last half hour, discrepancies.
Is every person who's changed going to require an amendment? Okay. Okay. So it's not unfixable, but there's work to be done. Sorry. Okay.
I put 100 hours in these spreadsheets over the last year. A lot of work.
I'm just trying to decide the best way to go forward, and I'm wondering if we go line by line, comparing Debbie and Ann's now. Chad, are you ready to do that based on what you've talked about so far? Conceptually,
Because if we go by Ann's sheet that brings everybody in every class to the exact same salary and wage, or an increase in wages, then we're looking at an additional over $50,000 in funds that we're going to have to find.
well, not the elected officials. We already said some of that doesn't.
Okay, so even if we back that out, it's only
Like, right.
And then I think we have a lot of questions in the SO category, because she took everybody in the SO to the same $1,500 raise.
Right.
Where in the original equation from the council, I'll say, it wasn't, we all know that. It had it all over, anywhere from,
Well, it sounds like the SOs don't have to be the same, right?
so, I mean, I agree with Debbie, I think we're going to have to go line item by line item. But at the end of the day, I think we need to think about going in front, what do we want to accomplish at the end? Are we trying to fix all the problems, get everybody in the class paid the exact same rate? And keep in mind, though, there will be some that will take a lesser increase in salary. There will be others who take it considerably more.
Well, this is what I meant when I said we lose some of what Kinnan did. If he gave one person, I mean, I'm looking here at the Comet threes. One person was only given a $500 raise, and then they need to get bumped up to $1,250 to keep it the same. Well, there must have been some reason why it was only $500.
It was based on Wagner when Shealy, everything
Right.
they did.
So we lose some of the value of what Kinnan worked on. If you, yeah, you don't have to hold it, but you have to just turn it on, I think.
Okay, going back to your example, Susan, on the COMAT 3 for the employee who only got the $500 raise, it's just kind of coincidental that that person went from a COMAT 2 to a COMAT 3 back in March. So there's that example, and then there is another one, if I can find it. Well, I'll just stick with this one. So not looking at the person, but just looking at the position, that person received the increase because they went from a COMAT 2 to a COMAT 3. They were actually doing the work, and they've got basically bumped up because of their Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy discovered and did their evaluation points. But then when it came time then for this increase or the consideration, this person didn't get as much because according to the notes, they got an increase.
This
That
is
is
one of the
true.
ones you mentioned.
That is true, because there's about 5 positions, if I recall, that had recent bumps, as to use your
right.
terms, and they were given less. And that was in my notes. These need to be addressed either through the commissioners to address the personnel manual or through job classification, that was accurate. So I'm glad you brought that up today. That is correct. Kay's position, Jody French's, went over in
Martha
the highway
Bard,
department.
yes.
There were several that had gotten recent bumps in the salary ordinance, and they were given less on my spreadsheet,
Right, and
$250, $500 less.
Right.
And in retrospect, after talking with you, that probably was not kosher.
no, we
And
have
it
to
needs
look
to
at
be
the
corrected.
position and not the person.
It needs to be corrected. But that was in my notes shared with everybody, because I wanted somebody to double check and make sure that it was, use my term again, kosher.
So this was corrected under
Yes, yes, it was for consistencies, yes.
So from a approach perspective, I think it sounds like we have to go through and make sure that each job classification is paid the same.
Well, I know the ones that I gave less based on that assumption should be addressed.
Right.
I was hoping it'd be addressed. That's why they were on my notes.
We hurried through the end of it, I think, and we didn't get all those questions answered.
We didn't. I just made asterisk notes
Yeah.
that these should be addressed later, which I think is what we're doing today.
Yeah, and
Maybe two
I
months
think
later,
that-
but we're finally correcting those things that
Right.
had notations to them.
right. So I think that, yeah, so line by line,
Somebody to authorize, make sure that I did all this right, because I'm no expert.
Chad,
Are we dancing?
We have 3 different spreadsheets and 3 different facets. So this is going to take us conceptually hours.
right? So we can't finish it all today.
I don't know what your time schedules are.
Yeah.
I don't know what everybody else is, but I just asked Debbie to put a time frame on the meeting and we go.
Right. And you need to leave at 12:40.
I'm supposed to leave at 12,
Yeah.
but I've already told my, I'm going to leave Shaggy here and then go crap you off here. It's not quite as bad as Kim, but it's looking all around. You know, next few days I'll make it work. But no, I mean, we are, I mean, this will take a lot, because we're going to bounce, because really we need to use Jay and Debbie's spreadsheet as the baseline.
Because that's what it currently is. Right.
But we're going to have to reference hands to ensure that we're getting all the classes done. I don't know that we need our county attorney to sit here the entire time to do this and pay him for another 50. I don't know that we, I mean, as long as we have all those legally questions answered, I don't know that we need Joel to sit here and continue to pay the county attorney to
Right.
I see an error in there. She's,
But so basically,
but she was all hours, so I used to be something else. She's 35 hours. Yeah, but I didn't give her the increase because I counted her as, no, it's just,
Right. We never, yeah. Unless, yeah. Yeah, let's see how much we get done in the next hour. Then we'll know how much more time we need to schedule this week to do it. Right.
I can,
Yes. I have my computer, but I'm not online right now, so it's not helping me. Okay.
Not that I can think of, certainly I should be around the office this afternoon for follow-up questions, so feel free to reach out.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Speed dial.
Just let me know if you have any other questions.
Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Okay, yep. So 5-minute recess? Okay. Not even commenting. I have a lot of popsicles. I'll get you more protein drinks. I love you. Bye. Even my husband got hand, foot, and mouth. Poor guy. And he's not very complainy, but he's not in a very good mood. I haven't gotten it, but just I could get it tomorrow, and then I would feel bad if I sat there and passed papers with everybody. So should have ordered some pizza. Yeah. I'm glad I asked my parents to come stay with the kids, though they're probably going to get sick now.
Wendy. I just want to get it done.
That's not cool.
No. Not a thing.
Well, we're making progress.
I think we'll get it straightened out by the end, yeah, of the meeting. Just wasn't even.
Progress. I mean, that's what we teamwork.
Yep.
We need teamwork. We need people working together to solve the problem instead of working apart.
Yep. Yes. So Todd told me that we go through. And after that, use this to help. So I thought what I would do when something, because these say I thought I would use two. Pumpkin sausage. Yeah, I don't eat very much of that stuff. When I do eat a hot dog, I want it burnt. Yeah. Well, after working in the health department for 11 years, I know that they are allowed to have so many rat hairs in things and so many animal parts in things that they sell us to eat. And it's very disgusting. I think Debbie's trying to print that Excel spreadsheet out, and I am not good at printing that whole workbook. I wonder,
I'll wait anxiously for it.
Okay. Do we have the sorted by department yet, or is Debbie still working on that?
it is by what was sent. We're having trouble figuring out how to print the whole workbook. Is anyone an Excel guru? She wanted to print it out. I'm not good at it.
Are you guys want to copy that printed out? Because I'll work on printing it out.
I'm gonna work on my
if I can, I,
Do you have it? Oh,
yeah, if you can print it or, yes. I don't have any cash, but I could pay y'all back Thursday. If you're gonna do something, I'll eat something. Thank you for that. Yes. I think it's still. Right. Yeah. Oh my goodness, we have an old Odyssey in our driveway. My husband said, let's fix it up and sell it. You only paid $4,000 to drive it for 2 years. Well, they can't make them because they can't get electronics parts. This is so scary what's happening right now. Oh my goodness. Have you guys ever watched the Hunger Games? We just watched them with the kids over the weekend, and I told my husband, it's actually scary. Because it could actually happen. I mean, this is how people can act when they become brainwashed enough. So, it's frightening. I don't either. Are we broadcasting? It doesn't look like we're broadcasting. Can someone shut it off? Okay. Both of them. I think so too. No, I haven't. I get my hair cut once every year or so. So I'm all good. Yep. I either have a long ponytail or a short ponytail. Yeah. I eat anything. Bobby's here.
I haven't had lunch. Does it include alcohol?
No, but chocolate. It includes lots of chocolate. Hey, Bobby, we may be broadcasting. We're not sure. Is it? I just wanted you to know. Can you check to see if we're broadcasting? Do you know how to check? It looks like we're not broadcasting.